Hey there, I'm Ben, and today I'm going to do a review of a power-driven diesel ultimate towing compound kit. This kit is installed on my 96 Dodge Ram 3500. I've had this truck about a year. This is a huge project that I'm working on. It needs new bumpers. That's definitely going to be one of the next things, but the truck is, it's definitely starting to come along. I installed this kit about a year ago. There's been some issues that came up, not really the fault of the kit, but just the fact that my truck wasn't quite ready for them. I pulled the head off and put ARP head studs and new head gasket and a cam and a whole bunch of fueling and engine upgrades, and I put the compound turbo kit on, and the sheer difference in horsepower and performance was shocking, but unfortunately it only lasted for a couple days, and then I blew a head gasket. So it was a pretty big process. I pulled the head out. I mean, I probably could have got the head surfaced and O-ringed and maybe gotten away with it, but I decided to pull the whole engine, strip it down to a bare block. Got the block decked and honed and a whole bunch of other stuff. Did a full rebuild and got the head surfaced and O-ringed, and basically went through and tried to get everything ready for this level of boost. So once I got the engine all back together, I've actually, because I'm working on several items on this truck at once, which is not something I would recommend, by the way, but it's been quite a project. Most of the last year has just been chasing around all sorts of different bugs and different little things. Basically, the truck's pretty much gotten rebuilt from front to back. I still need to go ahead and clean a lot of things up, but I'm just now getting to a point where the truck is actually ready for compound turbos, and the boost leaks are all sealed up, and all the fueling issues and stuff. I have my injection pump is maxed and balanced and as modified as it can get without pulling it apart and changing the internals. So I'm just now getting to a point where it's actually it's ready and it's performing like it's supposed to. So it's been quite a process. I'm definitely not blaming the fact that it was a process on this kit at all. The kit has been very good, but with some of the modifications I've made to this truck, there's been a few hiccups. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about what it's like living with a compound turbo 12 valve as a daily driver in a city. This thing should be pushing out 700 plus horsepower at the wheels. Obviously this is a dually on 37s. So trying to get accurate dyno numbers, to take what the engine has versus what's actually getting put down is a little bit of a guess. It might not be that high, it probably isn't actually, but I have a lot of additional supporting modifications, and this truck has been pretty heavily modified. I'm really not going for like a race truck or a dyno machine that's putting out just ungodly amounts of power. I really am going after drivability and functionality and low smoke and low EGTs, and I'm really trying to go in that direction of just something that can be used, you can tow with it, but it's still pretty sporty and got tons of power. I mean, this thing is pretty fast for what it is. Okay, so this is the kit here. That is a K27 turbo, and underneath and down in there is a Borg-Warner 369 SXE. It actually came with a power-driven diesel air filter. I've since replaced it with a Edelbrock one that I got at a parts store, and seems to be working fine. So anyways, a couple of the challenges I ran into with this kit. There's still a couple of things I got to fine-tune. This hose comes off the blow-off valve. I still need to reroute this. I've also got the power-driven diesel AFC Live, which I've put on a couple of times, and I need to fiddle with it a little bit more. I haven't tried putting it on since my injection pump got cranked up, but that hose and routing definitely needs to get looked after. One of the surprises that I had, I also bought, it's hard to see down in there, but in behind is a 3-piece manifold, exhaust manifold, and when I got it, I was a little bit surprised that the stock cooler lines, these lines right here, go back to the heater core and come off of the engine. The stock exhaust manifold actually comes with a mounting provision where there's like little bolts and a couple of brackets that hold the lines, and this kit seems to do away with that. So one of the upcoming projects that I need to do is to do away with the hard lines and then just route some heater hose line, you know, down away from the manifold and then kind of back up through here and back into the heater core. So that's not really a big deal, but something that you need to think about. The biggest issue I had with this kit was the fact that I have an aftermarket intercooler. This is a AFE Blade Runner GT. This thing was very expensive, but apparently it flows 30% better than stock, and it's supposed to be, you know, real good at lowering EGTs. And I just really wanted to make something where if we're down in the States and, you know, towing up a big nasty hill in the desert, to just give it every chance to be able to deal with the conditions. So like I say, this was very expensive, and you know, I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think that they actually had this in mind when they were designing the kit. Okay, so this red tube goes from the turbos to the intercooler. When I went to hook it up, it actually didn't fit. The boot was a bit of a wrong configuration for what this intercooler has, and I had to booger weld a piece of tubing onto it. I still need to go through and paint that, but trust me when I tell you I've had bigger fish to fry on this project than, you know, the color of this pipe. I know it looks like garbage, but it doesn't leak. I have had a boost leak tester on here a bunch of times, and definitely not seen any issues anywhere around there. When I welded it on, I did actually weld on a barbed end off of another piece of tubing from my Banks twin ram kit, so it is actually designed to be an end. That is a big thing with a high boost situation like this that you got to be careful with. All right, so now that you've seen the basic kit, I'm going to talk a little bit about why I selected this kit and what it's like living with it on a 12 valve truck in a major city as a daily driver. So I'm in Vancouver. It's definitely following the trend of a lot of West Coast sort of North American cities where it's extremely intolerant of any kind of smoke, or, you know, like having an old 12 valve with big power and very low amounts of smoke under normal driving conditions is it's a bit of a challenge to get that. I get sneered at and dirty looks from everybody all the time. I don't think I've had one person in Vancouver say, oh, hey, nice truck. And you go to a smaller town and everyone's giving you the thumbs up and stuff. So this is the kind of place where I got pulled over one time by a very nice cop. He wasn't doing anything wrong, but pulled me over and told me that sometimes people are actually calling 911 in Vancouver if there's a bit of smoke coming out of diesel trucks. I mean, it is just shocking, the landscape of the way people view these things. But for me, it wasn't so much about protecting against that, but I just wanted something that I could get in and drive. I didn't want billowing clouds of smoke, but I did want pretty big power. So this kit has definitely given me that. This thing is pretty fast. I have a cam in here, a 182 214, which has moved the power overall up a little bit higher than I would like. This is a Hamilton cam. It was called their daily driver cam, and I had read that a lot of people get too much cam and then aren't crazy about how it drives on the street. And I would say if I had to do it again, hands down, I would have got their towing cam. You know, this thing just has so much power that, you know, by the time you get to overdrive and into lockup, I mean, it is dramatic when you step on the pedal. I mean, this thing has got a ton of power, but the problem is, you know, immediately after lockup and, you know, a second later of acceleration, like, you're getting well beyond speed limits pretty darn quick. So, you know, for me, I'm not really having this thing at the track, and, you know, honestly, I don't need the power up there. I really, I'm not that pumped on it, so I would strongly recommend, I mean, unless you're going to be at the track or doing tractor pulls or whatever, or sled pulling, I would strongly go for like the towing cam that they offer, because I wish the overall power level was like way further down than it actually is. There is so much top end on this truck that I'm not even using. But the nice thing about this kit is, you know, I can leave a stoplight and, you know, get on the gas, take off, you know, and be leaving everybody completely in my dust, you know, up to the speed limit or so. And there's no smoke. I mean, it's just unreal. I mean, this kit on a stock truck, I don't know that it's going to be quite as good as that. It's tough to say, but you know, it's pretty impressive on the drivability of it, and the fact that this old truck, which is known for being kind of a smoky monster, it is big power and it's burning clean. So I am very impressed with that. I recently brought my injection pump in to get maxed and balanced. I've also got a rack plug, no fuel plate, star wheel cranked to the max, 3/4K governor springs, 7mm delivery valves, which are then going to 5x16 injectors. I've got an AFC max travel kit, probably some more stuff like a modified foot, and like the barrels have been racked and cranked up at a shop. It's flowing at 460 cc's, and I've also got the AFC slid all the way forward and the pre-boost screw all the way in. So I mean, this thing is as cranked as it can get without pulling the internal components apart and changing those parts. And still, I mean, there's no smoke when you get on the gas. I mean, if you're in the wrong gear, or if you really stomp on it at a low RPM, like when you're in lockup at 1400 RPM and you really get on it, I mean, there's going to be some smoke in those situations, because it's just, you know, it's not really creating boost yet, or it's not in a gear where it's going to. But if it's in the proper gear and you know, up to reasonable RPMs, I mean, it's amazing how much power there is before any sort of smoke starts coming in. And wide open throttle, there's going to be definitely smoke, but it's not like some black billowing choo-choo train of smoke. So in that regard, I have been very pleasantly surprised. Like I say, I have a lot of supporting modifications beyond just this kit, but you know, it's been very impressive. The drivability and the power and the ability to create boost at a very low RPM has been, you know, probably right at or beyond my expectations, and my expectations were pretty high going into this. So aside from the intercooler that's supposed to flow 30% better than stock, I've also got a Banks twin ram on here, which it's tough to say. I can't really give a back-to-back comparison because I had put this on before the turbo kit was installed, but overall this combination has been very impressive. I should also mention the timing is set at 18 degrees on here. Stock is 13, and when I got the injection pump cranked up, they said they were just going to put it at 18 degrees and I could kind of adjust it from there, and I haven't adjusted it yet. I'm really not wanting a big haze at idle, or and like I said, I wish that the power was generally a bit lower in the RPM band. So I think that when you crank up the timing, that can create more horsepower, but also kind of moves the power up in the RPM band, which I'm definitely not wanting. In terms of general operation of the truck, I also have a built transmission and all that kind of stuff too, so I mean, it's ready for it. That was a kit from Power Driven Diesel as well. I'll make another video on that. So I also have an AirDog 150 gallon per hour air separator, air water separator, lift pump, whatever you want to call it. In terms of general operation, this truck, when I first got it, it actually runs a bit on the cool side, to the point where the heater doesn't even really work that great. And I do have a new heater core in there, but also have a new blower motor, which I haven't put in yet, which might help. But in terms of general operation, I really haven't noticed, you know, the temperatures going way up or anything like that. We're in summer now in Vancouver, and I think it's probably about 30 Celsius today, which would be 90-ish, maybe, somewhere in there in the Fahrenheit. And this thing, you know, it's not cranking up the temperatures or anything like that. I mean, granted, the two turbos are going to cool down the engine a bit, but there's also quite a bit of fuel going in there. So overall, I feel like this combination has definitely met or exceeded my ideals of drivability. I yeah, I'm very impressed with how it's performed. I've got a couple of issues right here. There's a spot where this tube is rubbing on this eye, the mount, on the front of the head. So it's possible that that's because I had to modify the pipe a little bit and it's sitting forward. So that's something that I'm going to need to address. I might need to bend that hook a little bit, or maybe put some kind of wrap on the pipe, or not quite sure what I'm going to do there. I could probably just loop some stuff around the back and then kind of come out this hole and maybe figure out some way to sort of seal that up a little bit. I still got to deal with this tube, like I say, and my heater core lines. Those are going to need to be kind of routed out and around just to clean everything up a little bit. But overall, in terms of functionality, she's basically there. It's been a long process. Some of the biggest challenges I had getting it to this kind of power level were boost leaks on this truck. So I did have an issue with the boost elbow that comes off of the top turbo there. I don't think that was a problem with the kit. Possibly I put the V-band on a little bit crooked or something one day and it just warped it a bit. So I had to clean that up a little bit so the O-ring was sitting out further than the actual cover was. I've ran into no end of boost leak problems with the Banks twin ram setup, but again, I can't really blame that on Banks. Possibly the first couple of times I put it on, I might not have followed the exact torquing sequence, and that seems to be very important. I had a brand new gasket on there and drove around for a little bit of time and started noticing some kind of boost leak, and when I pulled it apart, there was actually like a 2-inch piece broken off of the gasket. And then I put on another new gasket, followed the torque sequence, and it was still leaking. So I don't know if my head was maybe a little bit warped or something like that, but I bought some thick gasket paper, went and made my own new gaskets, and that seems to have sealed it up good. And also this twin ram has a very elaborate torque sequence. For these 8 bolts here, I want to say you do them at 20 foot-pounds, like in a very specific sequence, and then up to 25, 30, and 35. So it's quite a involved process. And also this plate that goes down needs to be torqued from the center out at 18 foot-pounds. So overall, though it's not leaking anymore, there was a lot of struggles getting this whole system sealed up, but again, I can't really blame that on Power Driven Diesel or Banks, because you know, very likely it was maybe some inconsistencies in my truck and possibly in how I was doing things. So just something to be aware of. But overall, would I buy the kit again? Absolutely. I have bought this truck about a year ago, and it's a very aggressive front to back build. Actually, if you want to see the parts that have been bolted on, I made a video about a few months ago that a lot of things have changed and been updated since then, or completed I should say, but it's very, you know, it goes through and shows everything I've bolted on this truck, and it's a very thorough list. I mean, this truck is getting a pretty extreme makeover from one end to the other with all of basically the best stuff, in my opinion. So thing that I have to mention, first of all, with the I haven't been around a lot of compound turbo kits on these trucks, but when I was watching the video from the Power Driven Diesel guys, one thing they said that they routed the piping a certain way to be able to get at your oil filter, and I think they mentioned that some other kits you have to pull some turbo piping off to be able to access it, or is it access? Either way. So I just did an oil change yesterday. There's a Fram filter just working fine down there, and like you can see here, you just kind of reach in, turn it, and away you go. So that was a bit of a selling feature, I'll be honest with you. They also offer an alternative to the I put a Banks twin ram on the intake side of the engine, and they have a thing called a Cobra Kai, I think, and where it's a single pipe coming in. I had kind of liked the idea of the twin ram. I really tried to set this truck up with just kind of maximum airflow, just to help with EGTs and hopefully just quick spooling and low smoke and stuff like that. And you know, without being able to compare it to another truck with a similar or different setups, I mean, I can't really say for sure, but I am quite happy with the results. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. The last thing I want to say is I bought a lot of stuff from Power Driven Diesel. Bought one of their tranny rebuild kits with all the options: custom valve body, torque converter, a whole bunch of engine components, got the cam and all the lifters and push rods and valve springs and everything, and on and on and on, a whole bunch of stuff. And I just cannot say enough about how helpful those guys have been. This is my first time doing a project like this, or any major vehicle project. I'm a virtual rookie. I have a bit of a leg up in that I grew up with a dad who's a heavy-duty mechanic, and although he didn't directly help me with any of this stuff on the truck, he did help with a lot of phone calls, and there was a lot of advice and asking him things like that. So that, you know, compared to somebody who hasn't been around cars, that is going to make a difference. But regardless, I mean, I rebuilt the transmission myself, and you know, when you're doing projects like this, there's questions that come up, and you can search the forums and look online, and there's a lot of helpful, knowledgeable people there. But to be able to call Power Driven Diesel and talk to the guys who are directly, you know, in the know on these specific projects or products, they have helped me so many times where I was lost and struggling, and you know, they are an unbelievable resource. I just cannot stress that enough. When you buy stuff from them and you have questions, I mean, those guys, I couldn't imagine it being much better. I don't know if other diesel shops are comparable or what, but a huge A+ grade for me, for the ability to reach out and get help from those guys. I just cannot stress that enough. So anyways, that's about all I have to say about this. I will be putting out a lot of videos in the next while, talking about different components, as well as taking this truck out and doing a little bit of driving around. But it is a pretty impressive kit. It really jumps up into the boost fast. I most likely will be putting a Hamilton head on this, a stage 1 at some point, which apparently that is also supposed to have a big impact on how quickly the truck gets into the boost, which for me, I've really learned going through this process, it's all about the off idle power for me. I want to just step on the gas and get sucked back in my seat. I really am not interested in revving this thing to the moon, because like I say, I'm in a major city. You know, I can't be just speeding all the time, but I do want to get into the power. So this is still a great setup, tons of power, really runs great. Extremely low smoke. I mean, you have to be trying to make it smoke on this thing, and that's with driving around quickly, you know. So this thing has been just an absolute wonderful setup. But like I say, I've got a lot of supporting modifications, and it took me quite a while to get everything on that engine dialed in. So that's basically all I have about this. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'm really trying to build this channel, and my wife has agreed that once I can monetize the channel, I can buy a drift car. So for the love of God, please help me out with that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a good day. Take care.